Let's tackle a pressing concern for millions of young Nigerians. JAMB recently announced minimum UTME cutoff marks for tertiary admission. Now, at a policy meeting in Abuja on the 8th of July, the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, alongside university vice-chancellors, a lot of them, and polytechnic rectors, said the minimum cutoff they set the minimum cutoff at 150 for universities, 140 for nursing colleges, and 100 for polytechnics, colleges of education, and agriculture. Let's remember, this is out of 400.
Now, this is a 10-point increase from the previous 140 baseline. While JAMB argues the move seeks to preserve academic standards, the decision has drawn sharp criticism from students, parents, and even universities have voiced concern that the hike could worsen access and heighten inequality. Joining us today to unpack the implications is Dr. Joy Issa, an educationist and president of the Issa School of Education. Dr. Issa, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. She's a friend of the house as usual.
Yes, indeed. Judith, hang on. Let me say something, and I'm asking Dr. Issa's permission. Can I tell them your reaction when I called you up yesterday to join us on the show today to have this conversation? There was one word you used. I don't know if you let me tell them what it was. May I?
Yes, you may.
She said they are stupid.
Well, nothing less, because that you really just voiced my opinion, right? And Dr. Issa, so we got to start. Why the adjective stupid to describe that move?
To clarify, I think I said that was stupid,
Exactly.
not they are stupid.
That was stupid. Okay. My apologies. That was stupid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we need to look at it in context. Nigeria's JAMB is not the only organization that pays attention to grade boundaries or entry criteria. Every international organization does that. When students score very poorly, for example, they might lower the grade boundaries so more children can get into universities. When they score higher, they might raise that. It does happen, not only in Nigeria. Having said that, why we keep maintaining a low standard is the real issue. If we believe that we are educating our children, that we are providing quality education in our public schools, in our private schools, and we are setting our children up to succeed, why the grade boundary should be lower than 50% is really, unbecoming. It's something to wonder about. Are we saying that we're not raising a population of children who can think? Are we saying we're not raising a population of children who can pass examinations? Are we saying that we're just churning out, low-level thinkers who will come out and cannot function in our schools and in our universities? If you look at the grade, the discrepancy in the grades, it's not much, the difference between universities and the colleges of education and nursing, saying, 150 and 100. That's okay. That's not the problem. The problem is the fact that it is so low. That is the big issue. And I get it. Universities want to have children in. Children are doing well. So you say it's a 10% increase from what it was before. It was 140, now it's 150. Well, low is low regardless. Lower than 50% is lower than 50%. If I go to school for 12 years and I cannot come out and at least score average 50% to demonstrate that I understood half of what I was taught, then honestly, again, we, the adults who are providing this education, we need to look at ourselves and change what we're doing in our secondary schools so that when the children come out, they can pass the high-stakes exams.
Now, Doctor, just permit me, to do this, and I fear that I have to make a case, giving the bane of my job, the perks of my job, but we know how our education system is. We understand that the quality of education in the public and private part of it is worlds and miles apart, right? And so in the underserved area, hard to reach area, and the rural students, rural areas as well, people have argued, and critics have argued, that this increase will exclude them from access to higher education. What would be your response to that?
response would be for us to provide more of an intervention to support them, as opposed to churning out people who cannot access education.
Yeah.
Access is not equitable, don't get me wrong. So I'm not saying that all the children can hit all the courses in all the universities. Let's be aware, or let's be honest with ourselves. If we say that we know that there are children, there are young people in underserved communities who don't have enough teachers to even help them access the curriculum. So why do we think the universities should take on the burden? If you get what I mean. So if I've gone through an education that is suboptimal, where's my remedial college? Where's the space for me to acquire skills that I need to move forward? Again, why do we have everyone struggling to go into university?
Boom.
Why can't we have children, young people who are skilled, who are great with their hands, who are great with their minds, who can do other things? Why do we have to promote the white-collar jobs? And then we go outside to import artisans and people who have been trained to use their hands. Look at the polytechnics, colleges of agriculture and things like that. Okay, so you want me to score at least 100 in JAMB to get into the College of Agriculture, for example, or education, not a problem. When I get in there, what are you going to teach me? Are you going to remediate my areas of weakness? So I go back to the curriculum. I like to talk about curriculum. When children come into these schools with low scores, what are we doing to remediate their areas of weakness? Are we saying, okay, Joy, we understand, we just, you barely made it in, but we're not going to do anything about it anyway. We have set a line, we have written 10 things we're going to teach you this year, 10 next year, 10 then, and that is it. We're not going to do anything differently. We are doing our children a disservice. Children from underserved communities can be supported within the tertiary organizations if the tertiary organizations pay attention to that dichotomy or that discrepancy. So if someone comes in with a 300 and that person is in the same classroom as someone with a 140 or a 150, tell me, how is that supposed to be a fair combination, a fair grouping of children? We now have to put our lecturers on the spot here, unfortunately. In this country, lecturers are known to be one size fits all. They give you the handouts, they give you their notes, this is what they're doing, this is what they've done. If you don't get the handouts, unfortunately, you may not pass. But I came in at 100. I don't have the same knowledge and skill set as someone who came in at 300. So how are you, my lecturer, going to help me access that information? That is what education is. That is getting children to learn, getting people to understand how they learn and how to move forward. We don't differentiate, we don't provide that access. And then you throw it back at the secondary school, teachers saying, well, they didn't teach them enough, so they're not there. We know that there's a bell curve, which is why grade boundaries can be adjusted. So what are we doing to cater to the people at the lower end? It's not even about them being in a rural community or not. It's about us acknowledging that some children are slower than others, some children perform lower than others, and we as the educators need to pay attention to that group, not just to those who score 300 and we're celebrating them.
Yeah. Doctor,
how do we support the children at the bottom of the ladder, if you will?
Yeah.
Doctor, that's just fantastic the way you've put it. I can't wait to see you as Minister for Education or something. However, and I do agree with you, I do not think that it's...
Hey man, what are you doing? No, don't do that. Yes.
Celebrating in advance. But I do agree with you. I think that no matter the class that you are, intelligence is intelligence, brilliance is brilliance, whether you like it or not. Poor students can actually match up to those from privileged homes. You just have to provide them with that education. But is JAMB not trying to tell us something here when they're reducing these cutoff marks to 150? Because these same students they're setting these exams for, who even score maybe about 150, when they're taken to other climes outside of the country, they perform even better, yet with the education that they received here in Nigeria. So is it something about what exactly is it about? Is it that JAMB is setting these questions perhaps maybe too high, too difficult, and they know it? Because we have people, students who excel outside of Nigeria who didn't even pass, in quote, JAMB.
Well, we'll have to explore the data to verify that
Data is
assumption,
king.
really. Because children, underperforming children based on the cutoff, are those who don't get to a certain mark. They may be underperforming because one, maybe they didn't understand the language of instruction. You know, maybe they didn't have adequate instruction, that there was no teacher available, no textbook, no technology, multiple limitations. So where those limitations are remediated, where you now have a good teacher, you now have technology, you now have a textbook, of course you do better. When you don't even have to take them abroad for them to do better. We see a significant improvement in student performance when they're taken from some public schools to some private schools that have more provision, where the teachers have training on how to deal with learning delays or learning disabilities. We see a significant improvement in the children's ability to perform. Again, I have to say though, as an organization, universities, where is the differentiation? Where is the support for the underperforming students? Everybody celebrates the gold medalists, the winners, but where's the celebration for those who made the effort, who put in the work, who tried? Where's that success story? Where is the, and again, for some of the private schools, I have to say, where's the energy? So we all want to get those who scored 300. So by the time they finish, they graduate with a 2-1 in the first class. Where's your effort as a teacher? Where's that story of Joy came in at 100, maybe set to get maybe a 3rd class or a 2-2, but we put in effort, we supported, we provided remediation, there was online platform, this and that, and she came out with a 1st class. That's our success story in our university. Where's that narrative? I doubt that a number of parents would send their children to that school saying, oh no, I don't want my children sitting with low-level thinkers. Going back though to JAMB, the exam has been on, every country has their entry examination, and every country has a right to have that. The universities commission, all the leaders, they sit together and they decide. Again, the challenge is, are we honest with ourselves? Are we able to say that our children are adequately prepared to take that examination? Technological issues created gaps. Gaps in language. I promise you there are children in this country that have not used a computer and were required to take an exam that is a CBT exam, computer-based testing. There are children whose language of instruction, even in secondary, remains, let's call it broken English, because it's kind of a mix of English and the local language in the district. And those children are supposed to compete with the children in the urban communities. We are not doing our children, we're doing them a disservice, honestly. Let's be honest with where we are, to say, okay, you know what, in our school, these are our limitations, these are the courses our children can take. Why do we have children take 10, 12 courses, for example, in WAEC, when we know they have challenges? How many credits do we need to get into school, by the way? We need 5.
At my time, it was 7.
Can we get children to take 6 or 7 so that they're more likely to succeed?
I would say mine was 7. Now that we're talking about, underserved and, honesty in our system, we have to talk about that other thing that happened over the week, and that much ado about nothing as it regards age and age of admission or entry into the university. They have reaffirmed, JAMB have reaffirmed their stance that it's going to be still 16 years and no more than 16 years. If I were to put my thoughts on it, I would say, why are we bothered about age? We haven't been able to focus on getting, hitting the 50% mark, compared to age, right? But we must still talk about it. What do you think about that move as per 16? Because the argument is 16 is too young to go into university. They're going to face bullying and other kinds of vices, which, fair enough, but should there not be a place of guidance in our universities, like you rightfully put, where, more privileged children, more intelligent children, children who are incredibly gifted, who have to be in university, who have passed all their, mark, can be university by 14 or 15, but are guided through. Can there not be a place for that? And is 16, should we be focusing on the age as opposed to guidance and proper, guardrails when it comes to the children?
I love the word protection. We do need to pay attention to safeguarding and child protection. When you send children to an adult environment, you're setting them up for challenges. So if we say university is an environment where we have adults and the legal age or the adult age is 18, then my argument is, why are we sending 16-year-olds into an adult environment without guidance and the guardrails, as you have put it? Universities, university lecturers, university educators understand or are trained, are not trained to handle children. They're trained to teach adults, right? They're trained to support older people. So when you now compel them to take younger people, you are offsetting the entire system. They have to reset their systems. They have to reset policies. They have to reset systems for monitoring and supervising. Are they going to put all the young children in a specific hostel so they can check and make sure they're not drinking and smoking and doing drugs like the older children? What are you going to put in place? So there's a whole system around safeguarding young children in an adult environment. In other countries, more developed countries, you do have those systems in place. You have systems in place where minors are put in an adult environment. They have to show ID everywhere. There's certain places they are not allowed to go. Certain parties they're not allowed to go to because they are underage. They're not allowed to buy alcohol. There's so many rules, and the rules are followed effectively. Back to Nigeria. JAMB, I don't understand why the universities are going against the Ministry of Education's clearly laid out plan of a 934 system, or call it 6334 system. You get into primary at 5, you will come out of SS3 at 17, heading to university at 18. It's very clearly laid out. And so why are we rewarding schools and parents for breaking the rules and going against the system? Educators, leaders, thought leaders have come together and outlined curriculum and outlined growth trajectories, saying, look, give the children 6 years in lower school, in primary, put them in early years, let them learn to play, let them learn to take turns, let them learn social skills, do all of that in early years and in primary. Then you now begin to focus on subject specialisms in secondary. So you have junior secondary, senior secondary, and their gateway exams through all of that. Then you can now launch them into the deep in the world of adulthood, where they have sort of grown up, they've made a choice on what they'd like to focus their attention on in terms of studies. By the time they come out, they're more mature and more able to manage the world of work.
But
in an attempt to circumvent the system, we skip nursery, then we skip 1 year in primary, then you skip and you skip.
But Doctor, there can be outliers as well. There can be persons who or children who are academically gifted or just sound and who just pass all the metrics. What happens to those outliers?
I understand that there can be outliers. You have clearly stated what are the measurement matrices. What are we using to assess this outlier category of people? Are we using exam scores only? Are we using attitudinal surveys to check their well-being? So we don't just check quantitative aptitude and reasoning and their content knowledge in terms of their subjects, but we also check their well-being and say, okay, Joy is exceptional. She is gifted and talented. University, whatever your name is, are you able to take Joy? Are you able to safely provide able to provide a safe learning environment for her within this adult context? I don't know which Nigerian universities have policies for underage children. I'm not sure. I don't know which of them have safeguarding policies. So I guess that is the suggestion that would say, since these children are coming out, okay, universities, what are you going to do about them? Can you be deliberate about paying attention to their well-being, monitoring them, supervising them, ensuring that they don't end up being negatively influenced by the others who may already have been going down a wrong path, or being introduced early to the world of adults. Let's put it that way.
Doctor, let me add
So the
something
onus
to
would be on the universities really to provide that safeguarding training for their faculty and then support systems and procedures, definitely.
I'd like to add something else to our focus here. We've talked about, we're kind of like skimming around talking about the responsibilities parents have when they're jumping classes for their kids. The responsibility for JAMB, what to exactly set whether cutoff or the age limit for entry into universities. But then while we're still talking about safeguarding young minors who have, well, maybe they're intelligent enough to go through into these systems at such early ages, there is such a thing as such a consideration to be given to predators already inside of the system. Whose responsibility is that? There's a case currently from 2 weeks ago where the Dean of School of Agriculture for LASU was suspended. I think Dr. Tunji Abanikonda. He was suspended for certain practices as inhumanity to the students and also sexual harassment. If children who get into the system meet with, it's not just their outward expressions of adolescence that has to be considered. There's also the case of these predators. Whose responsibility is that?
Universities are supposed to run police checks and reference checks on all staff. All of us in education, we're supposed to have safeguarding training. We're supposed to, in order to be able to work with children, you are supposed to get your police checks done. Universities should not employ people without references. Unfortunately, again, our system is not ideal, let's put it that way. We run these organizations without necessarily applying the policies that we know we should apply. So where we get feedback on our deans, our lecturers, our faculty members, what do we do with that feedback? What is the whistleblowing policy of the organization, and who is going to enforce the correctional measures? So if I perpetrated sexual harassment, for example, on any of my students, and I resign from a university and go to another one, is the new university going to get a reference? Am I going to be we don't have a sexual offenders register. We don't have a list saying, okay, this person is not allowed to work with children for prior issues. We don't have any of those things. Those things exist in more developed nations, even though some people, even over there, still try and circumvent the system, but there are at least guardrails, right? There are gateways to try and prevent the predators. So now you are further complicating this issue, right? Because we want to send children to an adult environment where they may be exposed to people who are deliberately trying to prey on the naive. Mm-hmm. How can we, in good conscience, do that? How can we do that? It's honestly, we have to find polite language, right?
Yes,
it's honestly, I'm struggling here.
Yeah.
To find the nice words to say this, it's honestly, it's an injustice to the young people of our nation, where the adults do not provide safeguarding policies and procedures, where when adults are predators, they are not adequately reprimanded, and so we continue to expose our children and young people to them. It is an injustice to our young people. And we wonder why a lot of them want to japa and they want to run away. Because if I go to a university maybe down the road, next country, one of those two countries where our children, I don't want to see them, go a lot, they help you face these things.
Yes.
They're safer. So they will rather, mommy, please, let us save the money and let us, go next door, as opposed to come to our schools. Meanwhile, we have amazing faculty members. Our lecturers are sound. They're thorough. They pay attention, well, most of them. And so the outliers, the predators, the people who do things, we need to kind of catch that and just nip it in the bud. But It is from the ministry, it is from the judiciary, it is from the security forces, the police. Because if I go and report my issue to the police, am I going to be protected? Am I going to be safe? Is my family going to be attacked because I went to blow the whistle? That is the bigger issue. Right. Some of those girls, some of those boys are ready to blow the whistle.
Yeah.
But do not have protection from the judiciary or from the security systems.
There's also the university governing bodies as well who cover the predators, especially when they're in those councils. It reminds me of a friend who is male and also a professor in the overseas. He says he leaves his door open each time it's a student day or week where they come in to speak with the teachers. Whenever the students come in, he says, if they want to close, leave it open. You can come in. You know, it's the funniest thing ever. And every time I call him on video,
because we have to say he has to safeguard himself.
Yeah, exactly. I must say thank you, Doctor, for taking out the time to join us. What's important here is that our future of this nation is it's critical, and all hands needs to be on deck now, from the judiciary, the government, to the parents, all the way down to the educators. Dr. Issa, always a pleasure, insightful. The future Minister of Education, Dr. Joy, has joined us on here. We appreciate you.
From your lips to God's ears.
Dialogue. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, pressure, too much pressure, too much pressure.
Don't worry, I know you got it in the bag. The future Minister of Education of Nigeria, Dr. Joy Issa, educationist and also president of the Issa School of Education.